I want to welcome you. I'm very, very excited to have you here. I am Andrea Amador, and the reason that you're here, most likely, is because you've been depressed and you've been having a hard time, feeling like life has knocked you down to the ground and you just can't, no matter how much you try. Today, what we're going to be talking about is the importance of taking baby steps, because I know that you, like me, probably have these huge ideas of like all or nothing. So we probably have these grand ideas of what it looks like to succeed. And when we get knocked down, we just feel like such a failure, and you beat up on yourself and you say, God, I'm so freaking stupid. What's the matter with me? Why can't I figure this out? I never do anything right. I never get it right. I'm just too stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. Who do I think I am? I'm too old to be doing this. If you want to start a business, am I crazy? Why haven't I done this before? Everybody told me, yada, 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 yada. Okay, all of that stuff. What I want you to realize is the importance of taking little tiny baby steps and kind of expect that you're going to be knocked down. And the reason why is because whenever we get scared, it's a natural inborn instinct. Whenever we get scared, we can't think straight. Our blood rushes away from our head where we can think and be logical, and it goes to our limbs. And that is a natural instinct so that we can run. But what you want to do is you want to start thinking a little bit smaller. In order to think bigger, you have to start thinking smaller. You have to start thinking about what is the smallest possible thing that I can do that will make a change in my life. It may be something as simple as take a nap, write a letter, send an email, call someone. When you think about changing your life, and I know about this because I have been going through an enormous life change for the past 3 years because my husband passed away. And it has been very, very difficult. He was my rock. He was my everything. And because he was such an amazing and wonderful and supportive husband, oh my gosh, it doesn't give me any sense of pride to share this with you, but I didn't feel the need to push by marketing and promoting my coaching business. So for many years, I stayed in the background, because what I did was I would do presentations, I would do speaking gigs. It was all for free. I would volunteer at my kids' schools, and I would turn my volunteer efforts into creating programs for the children. One of the programs I created was a self-esteem program for my daughter's 5th grade class called It's Great to Be Me. And the way that I did it is, as I learned, I taught. And so I've taken that into my life. As I learn something new, I share it with you if it works for me. So I want to give you just a little story about the importance of taking baby steps. When I was a kid, I used to go to a camp, and at the time I didn't know how to swim. And so the first thing was I was put in a pool, big pool. It was called the Guppy Pool. And as a guppy, in learning to swim, I learned the dead man's float. And the dead man's float, if you don't know it, is you just kind of propel yourself forward and you just let yourself float on the water, right? And I learned, what else did I learn? I think I learned the crawl, which is just kind of moving your arms this way, and some other things. Now, at one point, after I was tested to move up from the guppy pool, I passed the test. Yay! Which meant that I could float and I could move my arms. But I didn't know how to swim. So the day that I passed the test, I was so proud and so excited. And the swim instructor, she walked with me. It was like the walk that went on forever. She walked me to the diving board, the 10-foot diving board. And I was told to just jump off the diving board. Oh my God. Wait a minute. I was able to swim. No, I was able to float in 3 feet of water, which to me was an incredible feat of mastery, right? But then there I was standing in back of bigger kids who were jumping off the diving board, and I had no idea of what to expect. When my turn came, I was so afraid. I could feel all I could see myself sweating. I was starting to shake and shiver. And the instructor, the lifeguard, was getting irritated. He said, come on, come on, come on. And I jumped off the diving board. And I remember the first thing I felt was this enormous pain in my stomach, on my stomach. It was like my skin was being ripped off. It hurt so much. And then the next thing I remembered is I was going down under the surface of the water and I could not swim. I was taking in all this water and I was so afraid. Well, it didn't end well for me, but I am alive. So the lifeguard ended up having to dive in and get me. I didn't need resuscitation, but I sure as heck needed a boost of confidence because I was so afraid. And that led to many years of being afraid of the water. And so the lesson here is you have to take baby steps. Going from the guppy pool, where it was 3 feet of water, to diving off the 10-foot diving board is insane. Don't do it. If you want to succeed at anything, go slowly. Take it step by step. Don't compare yourself to other people and say, well, she did it and she wrote a book in a weekend, so I have to write a book in a weekend. It took me 6 years to write my book. And the reason why is because there is so much involved when you write a book. We are here because I wrote this book, Love in the Skin You're In, The Juicy Woman's Guide to Making Peace with Food and Friends with Your Body. And the reason why I wrote this book is because I had a disastrous experience of stepping in and running the family real estate business. I was not appreciated. I allowed myself to be underpaid. I wasn't valued. I wasn't respected. And I ended up completely being disconnected and estranged from my father. And the takeaway for me after all of that and the financial devastation that followed was that I never want to experience anything like that again. And I'm going to write a book for other women so that they can value themselves. Because I came from a background where I never learned how to value myself. And because of that, it was very easy for people to take advantage of me. And I wanted to spend time with you, and I wanted to talk to you about the importance of loving yourself exactly as you are, not changing a hair on your head, not going on a diet, not losing weight, not doing Botox, not doing anything to change yourself, because you're perfect exactly as you are. Let me tell you why. I at one time I read that Joan Rivers, before she died, she had had over 800 plastic surgeries. She had had a pretty rough life. And the reason why she had over 800 plastic surgeries was because she kept thinking that she would be better, she would look better, she would feel better, she would be more confident if she got just this one more nip and tuck, just this one more Botox injection, or just this one more facelift. And the thing about that is, sure, you could do it if you wanted to. Nobody's stopping you. But if you go down that path and you think, no, I have to lose weight in order to be okay, or I have to change the way that I look, or I have to get that operation, I have to tighten my eyes, I have to, whatever it is, if you start going down that route, just like Joan Rivers, you will always believe that you are just one step away from accepting yourself, and you're never going to accept yourself. That's why I teach women, and the subtitle of the book is The Juicy Woman's Guide to Making Peace with Food and Friends with Your Body. And that's what it is that I do. I teach women how to make peace with food and friends with their body. Because the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. And most of my clients, they come from families where they have either been neglected or abused or disrespected. And what they learned is that the world is not a safe place. And they found food as their sense of safety. And as a result of that, just like me, they learned that every time that they got anxious or nervous, they would go eat. And so if you're like that, if you struggle with overeating or binging, I want you to know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. It's just a message from your body saying that whatever it is that's going on in your life is too much stress. It's too much pressure. That's why you're feeling the need to sneak a cookie when nobody's looking, or to hide a bag of Oreo cookies, or to have that extra plate of pasta when you have a confrontational disagreement with somebody, or if you're anticipating a confrontation, maybe you will seek food. There's nothing wrong with that, and you're not a bad person, and you haven't done anything wrong. It's just that up until now, you haven't known any other way to deal with your anxiety. And I want you to realize that that's what it is. When you are in that place where you're overeating, or for some people, it's not overeating, it's smoking or drinking or taking drugs or surfing the internet or porn or anything. It could be anything that you do to an obsessive degree, to an extreme. When you do something and you recognize that it's making you more unhappy than it is happy, that it's causing more problems in your relationships, more problems in your productivity, it's taking away from your time, then that is a way of trying to find comfort, trying to comfort yourself because you're anxious, because you're nervous. What I do is I teach women a technique called emotional freedom technique, which is an incredible stress relief method based on the science of acupressure. And if you know acupressure's cousin, younger cousin, and you have had an acupuncture treatment, then you know how relaxing it is. I remember at one time I had an injury from the gym. I had what was called restless leg syndrome. And whenever I would lift weights and it would be too much of a strain on my body, my right leg would bob up and down. And so I went and I got acupuncture treatment. The acupuncturist would put needles all the way down the side of my. What acupuncture does is it realigns the body's energetic system, because basically we're all just energy. Everything is energy. Even your thoughts are energy. And so when you feel off, on those days when you feel like you're having a hard time and you're not feeling like in the zone and you're depressed, that's when your energy is low. And well, I need to start cooking. Hold on a second. Let's figure this out here. I'm going to bring you with me. Oh my. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's not too bad for a beginner. All right, so what I'm going to do today, as I was talking about, it's really important to start with baby steps in coaching. And in the cooking world, starting with the basics and baby steps is boiling water. Boiling a pot of water so you can make tea. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not sure exactly how much I can show you, but I'll do my very best. Let's see. Oh, this is so much fun. Are you having fun? Because I'm really having a blast. It's a little crazy, but I'm loving it. I am going to add some water. Can you see me? There we go. I'm going to add some water to a pot. I'm going to have a couple of cups of tea, so I'm actually going to put more. And I start my stove with this crazy thing. This. And then when you boil water, the best thing is to put a lid on the pot so that you can keep the energy in. And so if you think about it, it's kind of the same with your body. You want to protect your energy. You want to keep your energy in, because if you're always taking care of other people and doing for other people and spinning in 1,000 different directions, doing things for other people, saying yes to everything, saying, oh, sure, no, I can take care of it. No, of course, I'll take care of your sick mother. I'll lend you my car. I'll give you money. All of these things, if you are always, always saying yes to everything, and that's the other thing. In this book, it's a 464-page book. 76 pages of it is devoted to teaching you how to set boundaries in your life, how to say no, not only to others, but to yourself. So one of the things that we do, it's called catastrophizing. Have you ever found yourself in a position where you're thinking about something, either in the past or in the future, you're worried about something that has happened or is about to happen, and you think of the worst possible scenario? You think of something that no brilliant fiction writer would think about. Your thinking just goes sky high, and you scare yourself by imagining all of these things. Have you ever done that? Because let me tell you, I have done it a million times and still to this day continue to. All right. Well, if you've done it, what that means is that your energy is going all over the place. So the best way of getting in touch with yourself and reconnecting with your energy is by doing this tapping that I teach. I teach this through a membership group that is going to be starting on this Thursday. And I will give you an example of it, but in order to be able to be most effective, you actually have to be here and give me feedback. So I'm just going to give you a very basic vanilla example of how emotional freedom technique can help you. I will show you the different tapping points, and I will invite you, if you're not here on this live stream, then I'll invite you to follow along with me and try it out. It's amazing. It's actually this technique that completely turned my world around in 2004. Because as I said, I had a horrifying experience running the family business where my once loving and close relationship with my father turned to absolute crap after realizing that he stabbed me in the back and chose money over me. And I realized that I had wasted a large amount of my life by taking care, feeling obligated, like I had to step in and help him to run the family business. And because I had no sense of boundaries at that time, the boundaries that I had, the boundaries that you will learn by getting my book, is all the result of my training as a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. And basically what that is learning how to reframe the way you see things, the way you talk to yourself and the way you talk to others, the way you experience the world. So prior to that, prior to stepping in and running the family business, I had a really close relationship with my dad because I always thought of him, and actually still do, continue to think of him as having rescued me. Because he didn't know it, but after he and my mother divorced and she met another man, he turned out to be a pedophile, and he sexually abused me and beat my brother. And because of those experiences, I held them inside of me, and it was like a secret that I never felt like I could divulge because I felt so deeply ashamed and horrified by those things. And the triggers for me, the constant reminders that triggered memories of these horrible situations, the triggers, the constant reminders of these situations happened all the time. And it affected me all the time. It was sabotaging my happiness. It was sabotaging my marriage with my husband. All the guys before who I had dated were creeps. And amazingly, I met my husband, who was wonderful, who adored me in every way, every size, shape, form. He loved me. And because I wasn't used to being loved, it was hard for me to accept his love. And for me, this meant that I was constantly catastrophizing and thinking that my husband would leave me for another woman, and always kind of accusing him or looking for reasons why I would be right. It was, oh my God, it's insane. The first few years of our marriage were so insane. I do not know how my late husband Angel stayed with me for 32 years through the thickest and the thinnest times. But it was creating constant chaos in my life. And after basically being booted out of the family business and walking away with nothing and having to start over, I made a decision that I wanted to start coaching, and I wanted to work with women because that was my passion. And at the time, because I was experiencing so much chaos in my own life over my experience of sexual abuse, which led to so many others, I realized that I needed to get some help. And I began therapy. From the time that I began the family business, I actually began working with a therapist and continued for another 14 years. And there were certain triggers and memories. Tea is ready. So here you see the water is boiling. This mug is a special mug, and I have never actually used it. This was my sister-in-law, Lourdes. With the tea, what you want to do is you want to let your tea steep. That's what it's called. This is the bag, the tea bag. And you want to leave your tea alone for about 3 minutes or so, and you let it steep to get to the color of tea that you want. Okay? I like it just a tiny bit darker, not too much. So I'm going to bring it with me. And we're going to come back here. Okay. Here we go. Wow, let's not do that. So I'm going to switch the camera again. Okay, good. And here's the tea. No, we're gonna switch the camera again. There we go. Whoops. This takes a little figuring out. So there's the tea. And I'm going to set that aside. And switch the camera again. Fabulous. Okay. This is a lot of fun. Where was I? Okay. So in the early years of my marriage to my husband, I brought so much chaos and so much craziness into our marriage because I was terrified that he would cheat on me. And back in 2004, I was at a place where I wanted to ask him for a divorce because I just felt, I convinced myself that my husband didn't love me anymore. I told myself these stories that Angel doesn't love me, and he was still just as affectionate and just as loving, and the sex was just as great. But I told myself these stories that he didn't love me. And at that time, those years, I felt very, very fragile. And I was sitting in my master practitioner training, and my group was working on, we were going to do presentations. And something that I heard one of my peers talking about, which I don't exactly know why, but he was talking about his grandmother had beaten him. I guess maybe for me, what it did was it reminded me of my stepfather who sexually abused me and beat my brother. And that started the wheels turning in my mind, thinking about all of the horrors and the worst possible experience of feeling helpless in terms of sexual abuse. And no amount of therapy work with Ruth was strong enough or able to handle that fear, that terror that came over me in those times when I was triggered. And I was triggered, oh my gosh, all the time, watching the nightly news. There would be some story of a child who was molested, or walking past certain places, living in New York, being in the same area, I would get triggered. I was a mess. Smells, tastes, feelings, thoughts, constantly. I felt like I was at the mercy of my paranoia. I felt at wit's end. And so there I was, re-experiencing the trauma of that. And there I was in the presence of maybe 40 classmates or something like that. We were sitting in a semicircle, and I had my hands resting on my knees. And I remember looking down on my knees and seeing that they were jumping up and down. They were trembling. My hands were trembling. I was starting to feel like sweaty and feeling like scared, like I had to run. And lucky for me, one of my peers, Gail, she tapped on somewhere on me to get my attention. And she looked at me and she said, Andrea, are you okay? And I shook my head, no. And so she and I left the room. She pulled me out of the room. And as soon as the door closed, oh my gosh, I remember this as if it were yesterday. As soon as the door closed, I broke into sobs. And I heard her through my tears. She said, Andrea, I know you don't know what it is that I do. I'm an emotional freedom technique practitioner. And if you'll give me permission to tap on your hands and your face, I can help you. Is that okay with you? And I shook my head, yes. Then she said, okay. She said, can you speak? And I could feel this tremendous lump in my throat. I went, no, I can't. I didn't say no. I just, no. She said, that's okay. She said, can you hum? And I tried. And yes, I was able to hum. She said, great. She said, I'm going to tap on you. I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to tap on you and you just hum. You don't have to say anything. So she took one of my hands and I'm going to do what she did. She did this. And the thing that I remember her saying the very most was she kept saying, even though, even though, even though. She had a feather touch, right? She was very, very gentle. And yet the feeling that I was experiencing was as though she was whacking me with a pillow. There was an intensity, an energetic movement that was going on in me. And she's tapping, even though, and she was saying other words, but I remember the even though. She's tapping and she's tapping, and she stops for a moment and she says, can you speak? And I was actually able to speak. And I said, yes, I can speak. So then she walked me over to the window where we sat down, and she asked me questions about my experience and what it was I was thinking and what it was that I was seeing. And I told her. And as I was telling her the story, she was tapping here. Hold on. She was tapping on me here. She was tapping on me here and tapping on me here and tapping on me here and here and here and here. And it would just keep repeating the cycle. And I kept telling her the story of this horrific event. And I remember one of the things that she asked me to do was to think of somebody who I felt completely safe with, which would be my Nana. And she said, think about Nana being in that room with you. How would things change? And she's tapping on me and she's tapping on me. And she got me to the point with the tapping where I no longer felt terrified. That feeling of feeling like clenched and frightened and paranoid and all those other thoughts, not to mention hating my stepfather and feeling like I'd never forgive him and his friends for all the things. I walked away from that experience with Gail feeling at peace. She brought me back through that same memory to test it, to see if I still had that same emotional intensity that I had after I walked out of the classroom and I started the sobbing. It was gone. It was just like the memory had been put way up on a shelf, put into a glass case, and it was something that I could see as a movie. And to this day, I just see it as a movie. My horrifying experiences of basically being trafficked as a child. I can see it, but I don't feel anything. I don't have that reaction, that response of feeling like a victim. And after Gail worked with me, I realized I had to share this with other women. I had to share this with you. Because for the first time ever, I didn't have to have my therapist on speed dial. I didn't have to run downtown and see Ruth or call her, say, Ruth, can you help me because this happened or that happened? And although there were so many other situations that cropped up, I still had the tendency to do the catastrophizing thing and to be very doubtful of my husband's love and suspicious and all of that crazy stuff. But I knew as soon as I started, after I worked with Gail, I realized that I wanted to get a coach. I hired a coach to help me, to work with me, and teach me the emotional freedom technique. And after working with my coach and realizing that I could do the emotional freedom technique whenever I have an experience where I'm feeling overwhelmed and frightened or anxious, that I could handle it myself. It's like when you get a cut, right? You don't rush to the hospital. You just go to the bathroom cabinet and you get a box of Band-Aids, you open it up, you clean your cut, you slap the Band-Aid on, you're done. Well, that's what this is. The emotional freedom technique is your do-it-yourself way of dealing with anxiety that comes up in your life. So, as I said, you start here. So let's do this around what the emotional freedom technique does is it gives you the opportunity to reframe what it is that you're thinking of. Because when you're tapping here, you're actually putting your body in a light trance and you're highly suggestible to receiving new information. So you're tapping here. And let's just tap on feeling as good as you can feel, okay? So let's say you're feeling kind of crappy today. And oh, by the way, let's switch the camera again. Okay, so the tea is good. I'm going to pull out the tea. For this tea today, it's honey, lemon, ginseng, green tea, celestial seasonings. And let me go back, switch camera again. Here we go. And I'm going to drink the tea from Lotus's cup. Oh, that is good. And I'll continue. But next week, if you join me here, what I'll be doing is making French toast. Okay, so all right, back to feeling as good as you possibly can. So let's say you're feeling crappy. It's a day where you're feeling blue, you're feeling sad. And so what you want to do is you want to do this. Tap here, even though I'm feeling like crap. And I don't think I can feel any better than this. I acknowledge the way I feel. I feel like crap. And there's nothing that I can do about this. That's just the way I feel. And I'm okay with the way I feel. I'm not going to feel any better than this. This is the best that there is. It's amazing that I even woke up today. I accept the way I feel. God, I've been through so much lately. It's been so hard. Life has been so hard. I feel like I've been knocked down. Everything has been so difficult. Oh, if I could just give up just a tiny bit of this feeling of feeling sad. It's so hard. It's such a challenge. Now I want you to pay attention to your body, because this is actually a way of your body getting your attention. Notice what's going on when you do this. What I like to do is I actually just let my thoughts roll over me. You can talk it through. You know, those times when you feel an emotion, you feel so overwhelmed, you don't even have words. This is the perfect thing to do. Just tap. And in fact, what I teach my clients is just to hold themselves here, because that's one of the tapping points. I ask my body to change the way I feel. I recognize that I deserve to feel as good as I can feel. I recognize that I'm a good person. I recognize that I deserve better. I send love and compassion to my doubts that I can feel better. I'm open to feeling better. I'm open to feeling better. I'm open to thinking about things that inspire me to feel better. I ask my body to feel as good as it can feel. Okay. So what I want you to do is check in with yourself and see how you feel. If you feel differently, if you feel better. Like if you were to measure this on a scale from 0 to 10, would it be 0, which means you don't feel anything, that you don't feel badly? Or would it be 10, that you feel terrible? You want to pay attention and see how you feel, because what you can do is you can keep on using the tapping, and what you want to do is you want to focus on what it is that you're thinking, because when you pay attention to what you're thinking, that will clue you in to what you're feeling. So many times we just automatically go into this place in our minds where we spin. We have these racing thoughts. And it's like, it's just crazy. And you're all over the place. And all of a sudden you're thinking so negatively, and you're thinking like so defeated, and you're feeling like a victim, and you're feeling helpless. Well, this is what you can do. You can tap. And I am going to be starting a membership. It is the Love in the Skin You're In membership, based on the book, teaching many of the principles of the book, which includes my Losing Weight Without Dieting program. And I will be working with the group, each of the individuals, and helping them to deal with whatever it is that's going on in their life. If they're feeling frustrated in a relationship, if they're feeling challenged by procrastination, if they're feeling like anxious about gaining weight, we will deal with them as a group. And the cool and the amazing thing about emotional freedom technique is because this is an energy-based technique. The way it works is that so let's say as we as a group are tapping, I could be tapping on having a cramp, right? And you could be tapping on having a difficult relationship with your mother. And yet both of us will get a benefit. It's crazy, I know, but it's really, really true. So I'm going to drop the link for the membership, and it is so cool. It is my privilege and my pleasure in being able to share this with you. I love emotional freedom technique, and I adore coaching, and I adore food. So to have the opportunity to be able to be here with you and to share all of these things, I'm about exploding. So I want to thank you, and I hope that we meet up again in the future, and your life is about to change. Have a great, great day. Bye now.